From the ECSI Sports Studios and the #1 sports investors in America, we bring you the Closing Bell. As the market closes, legends Jeff Dawson and Riley Magnuson bring you all the sports investing tips for tonight's matchups. If you want to learn more from the two legends at the desk, make sure you stay tuned to the Closing Bell. Hey sports fans, are you ready for an exhilarating gaming experience? Introducing VIPClub.lv, your ultimate online sportsbook and casino. VIPClub.lv offers a vast selection of sports, from football and basketball to tennis and baseball. Bet on your favorite teams and enjoy the thrill of the game. But that's not all. Our state-of-the-art online casino offers a dazzling array of games, including slots, blackjack, roulette, and live dealer tables. Win big with their fantastic promotions, rewards, and exclusive offers. Join VIPClub.lv today and get a generous 100% match welcome bonus to start your winning streak. Make sure to use code ECSI at sign-up. Bet it, win it, and cash it at VIPClub.lv. Visit VIPClub.lv now and play responsibly. VIPClub.lv, your sportsbook and casino extravaganza. Must be 21 or older to play. Please gamble responsibly. Visit gambleware.org for help. ECSI fans, do you want to revolutionize your sports investing habits? Allow me to tell you about WagerWire. WagerWire is an app that helps you become a superior bettor by allowing you to sync all of your sports books and track all of your bets in one place. See your current action, your betting history, and stats. You can also sign up for sports books and collect bonus offers. Follow them at WagerWire on X, as they're the best account on the platform. Head to the App Store or Play Store now and search WagerWire to download the app.
Good evening, sports fans from all around the globe. I am the co-host, Jeff Dawson, East Coast Sports Investors, and this is your closing bell for Friday, February 23rd, 2024. Next Friday at this time will be March 1st. That's right, start the madness. Conference championships, March Madness, office pools, who's cutting the nets down, who is going to Glendale, Arizona, the Final Four, where hopefully my Yukon Huskies make it, and 3 other teams will be there as the defending champs try to get back to Arizona and cut the nets down. But you made it. The weekend is here, or almost here. Shout out to our new proud sponsor and partnership, WagerWire. If you have not downloaded the app, please, enough's enough. Head on over to Google Play or wherever you download the apps. It's free. Start tracking your bets. Start keeping track of your ROI. And yes, if you're looking to make some flash cash, send an email to affiliate at wagerwire.com. Tell them JD from ECSI sent you. Travis, Zach, the rest of that team and community will take good care of you. And also our proud sponsor with VIPClub.lv. At checkout, use the ECSI promo. Tell them JD from East Coast Sports Investors sent you. They too will take good care of you. Without further ado, the co-host, the other star of the show, the one and only Mr. Southside Riley himself. What's up, Riley?
Good afternoon. Good evening, my friend. Happy Friday. Ready to rock and roll with you. It's been a few days since you and I have talked, so I'm always excited to catch up with you. Obviously not a huge slate tonight outside of maybe the NBA, which is obviously day 2 after the All-Star break, but plenty of stuff to talk about in the Big Ten this weekend, which I have, and college basketball, as we are excited for. As the season winds down, obviously some good conference races to look at and talk about, and obviously the bubble race, the bubble watch is as good as it's ever been, in my opinion, in a lot of ways here. Some really solid teams that could be on the outside looking in or fighting for a spot here, or we've seen some teams that looked really solid a month ago and you almost pencil them in, and then a team that breaks down and loses 8 out of 10 or whatever it is, maybe not penciling them in, but a team like St. John's, was kind of on the inside a month or so ago, and now Obviously, the chaos has been begun this last month or so. So excited to talk to you. Obviously, some other news around the sports world. If anyone didn't see, the NFL announced that their salary cap is going up each team going up about $30 million in cap space. So a team like my Packers were a team that was right around right around even, as far as maybe even over the cap a little bit, projected to be, is now got some room to work it, if this is what we're talking about here. So some teams that probably, like the Packers, probably with the way you can flex around this salary cap, probably could have made some flexibility to add a piece here, but now can probably be a lot more aggressive and really add to this young team that they've got, on top of obviously trying to restructure and extend Jordan Love. So not sure if that's where you want to go, my friend, but we've obviously got a handful of things to talk about. So ready to rock whenever you are.
Shout out to Mr. Jay Berry. As he says, always a great show from the East Coast Sports Investors. And right back at you, Jay. Your content is amazing. Love following and watching you as well. Keep up the great work there. It's funny you start there. It's like going back a handful of years ago when the Patriots were so far under the cap and getting chastised for not spending that money, and they go out and they spend it on Hunter Henry, Janu, Kendrick Bourne, and it's just overspent. Like literally, the bell sounded, and 5 minutes later, the Patriots had spent $250 million, and it's overpaying. It's like asking your mom and dad for $20 because you plan to go to In-N-Out Burger, and they hand you $100 bill, and it's like, oh shit, where am I going now? You're going to overspend, and you're going to go spend that extra $80 that you didn't think that you were going to get. So it's comical. That number can always be change. So perfect example. Before we went live here, I was reading someone talking about Gabe Davis and his contract could be worth $60 million, 15 per year. I wouldn't give that guy 15 cents per year. Because I'm someone that's been slighted the last 2 or 3 years in the fantasy market because of him, waiting for that 4 or 5 touchdown day on that Sunday that you can't get. I mean, it was 1 for 8, 1 for 8, 0 for 0, 0 for 0. Oh yeah, 6 for 78 and 2. Thanks, but no thanks.
Right, and it's going to be interesting. I mean, not to keep harping on the Packers, but obviously the Jordan Love is the one case where they obviously got to have an interesting conversation of how much is he worth right now after the little bit of a roller coaster season with a fantastic finish. Daniel Jones' line it's tough to go under that right now, obviously. So he's probably got a little more leverage to say, hey, you got a little bit more room to give me an extra $5-10 million on the total here, and there's not a ton of other guys that they really need to restructure. So, I obviously I'm the Packers. I hope they aren't overspending like you're talking about, because there are going to be some teams. I mean, we talk about it. My favorite example is the NBA that one year. It's probably closer to 10 years, almost 10 years now. But the year Timothy Mozgov was getting $20 million per year, and so and so was getting $15-25 million per year, and then 3 years later it was like, how in the world are we affording these guys? These are some of the worst contracts we've ever seen in our lives. This guy's not averaging 5 points a game. So don't know that it'll be that egregious. We've got some examples to, like you said, examples in the past now that this has been a little more commonplace every handful of years. So going to be some teams, that are a little more aggressive and can add. And so as a Packers fan, I'm excited because, obviously they probably feel like they can either – make some room and make way for a lot of guys to extend in the future here, or at least add another piece or two, maybe one on each side of the ball or something like that going forward here, as far as that is concerned. Same thing with the 49ers have, in a spot where they were starting to probably looking at a lot of these big names catching up to them. They can probably afford a lot of these guys, especially some that they've already paid, and can afford to extend some of these guys. So it's going to be interesting. And probably going to be a pretty eye-gouging off season where, like you're saying, certain guys where you'd barely expect them to make $5-6 million, or like you said, getting $10 to $15 million a year. So I'm excited to see it. Hopefully, our teams are on the right side of it and not being stupid with it. But we'll obviously see when it gets there.
Yeah, and someone else on Twitter brought up a great point. That extra 30 million will now probably allow the Chiefs to go out and re-sign Snead and Chris Jones, just what these guys
Yeah.
need. And the talk of someone sent me a good friend Rick Thomas out in Montana sent me a quick snippet of Mike Evans to Kansas City. So they were showing, Mike Evans. They were showing Travis Kelce, Rashee Rice, as that building block. We didn't even talk about, Isaiah Pacheco, CMC, not CMC. Geez, that's all they would need. Imagine the Chiefs with CMC. But the point of the matter is, again, Dak Prescott now worth $60 million a year, and it's comical. I am not saying Dak is not a good NFL quarterback. I'm not saying that. The fact of the matter is, it's about getting to the NFC title. It's about getting to the Super Bowl. It's about winning a ring. And, good luck beating the Chiefs. Mahomes, Andy Reid. Yes, Kels is getting long in the tooth. Rashee Rice has made that next step. I said it all along. If I am Kansas City, I'm calling up Minnesota. I'm saying, all right, what's it going to take to get Justin Jefferson? Can you imagine the Chiefs with Justin Jefferson?
God.
Okay, so don't let them go down that rabbit hole, guys, because forget about it. It's a wrap there. College hoops. People have to remember this. It's a long, long season, and I'll take you back to last year when my Huskies from UConn started the Big East, I think losing 4 of the first 6, losing in the semifinals in the Big East tournament, which was the greatest blessing in disguise. It gave them 2 days off extra to get ready for the tournament. And why am I bringing this up? Because you got to win 6 in a row to cut the nets down. You win 5 in a row, you get to the title game on Monday. And ask San Diego State that. They had the magical run, and then they lost on Monday. The path right now for UConn, if they're a 1 seed back east, is 2 games at the Barclays Center and 2 games at TD Garden right down the road from me. They don't have to jump on a plane to get to either one of those venues. Then they jump on a plane to head to Glendale in Arizona. So when you're putting together your portfolio, I have a UConn, I have a Purdue, I have a Kentucky at 18-1, I have an Auburn at 16-18-1. Then you start looking at the Kansases of the world. You start looking at Arizona, who lost at home, who got swept now by Washington State. So when you're putting your portfolio together to get to the Final Four and to cut the nets down, you have to believe that your team can win 6 in a row. That's what it takes. You better have good coaching. You better have strong guard play. And that's before we even look at the brackets, Riley.
No, 100%. And it's another year where it seems like I think a lot of people would agree the top 3 teams are better than the next crop of teams. But, I mean, by no means are they juggernauts to where you would be shocked to see the 20th best team in the country knocking off one of these top 3 teams. No, I don't think anyone would be shocked by that. And so there are a lot of teams of value. But like, as you said, I mean, a team like Creighton that just took down your Huskies, I know you and you agree that you didn't expect as much as a lot of people did coming into the season. They are a good team, but do you really see them winning 5, 6 in a row? I probably don't. There's a lot of teams that you could see going on a nice little run. I mean, that Alabama team has put together some nice streaks. I mean, they could be they're a streaky team, obviously. A team in the Big Ten that was very close to having a chance at least a share of the regular season title that kind of choked away their chance of that in 45 seconds was Illinois the other day, where hasn't really put together that type of 5-6 game streak necessarily, but I obviously lost Terrence Shannon in the middle of their season, so kind of at a spot where they're getting themselves back rolling. Had been rolling, but if anyone didn't see, they were up by 7 with about 40 seconds left and choked it there. So, which obviously, as someone who's a little bit more of an Illinois fan, would say there's one specific player that is a little erratic in those situations that could be a little different in Coleman Hawkins there. But nonetheless, I mean, that's a dark horse team as well. I mean, as opposed to a team like Baylor, who obviously we'll talk about in a second, has got a big game tomorrow. I don't know if you see them as a team that can win 5, 6 in a row. I mean, would it shock me? Not necessarily, but no, you're absolutely right. There are some teams that are good enough to string those types of wins together. And there's a lot of teams that are good enough to beat UConn or a Houston or a Purdue, and then you wouldn't be shocked to see them losing to I don't know, a Washington State or a Colorado State the next 2 days later in the tournament. So obviously it's the most exciting time of the year, but you really gotta peel that back and see where you can get some good action and some good odds there for teams like that. So I'm excited. A lot of teams you mentioned there. A team that I really like, but don't know if they can do what you're talking about because I love their defense is Iowa State. But obviously a lot of they've been fantastic at home. And have been a tough matchup for some teams. But, you get them up against a team like Houston who's similarly built to them, and they just aren't as good as them, and they fell in that situation there. Or you get a team where, despite how good their defense is knocking down some shots, they're going to fall because their offense is a lot better than it was in past years, and it's the reason why they're a top 10 team. But obviously, I'm not sure they can go on a deep run like that. So I'm excited. I think the ACC is one that I'm interested to see where they fare, where I think obviously on paper in your head you think Duke, UNC are going to make a deep run here, but it's another conference where we won't know exactly how good they are until the tournament starts. One of those ones where you wouldn't be shocked to see 90% of the teams out of the first weekend, or they could turn out and be one of the better conferences and have 5-6 teams. That might even be generous for how many teams are getting in, but I think you understand what I mean there. When there's a few teams in the ACC that have a chance that could pull off a couple wins, or they could fall flat on their face in day one. So I'm really curious to see how it falls out. I believe in your UConn team, believe in Purdue, believe in Houston. I believe in all three of them, but one of them's probably not making the Final Four, if not two of the three there. So going to be interesting to see how it goes, and obviously we're going to get some good games tomorrow out of these group of teams here as well.
Yeah, and we could talk for hours here just on the NCAA. And as we start to get closer and the schedules, my schedule, your schedule start to exist a little easier together. I'm 2 weeks back from Radio Row in Vegas. We talked backstage what's going on, a crazy week for us here at ECSI, Anthony Pepe Food Truck Festivals, which we'll divulge later on when it's time. But I like the Purdue angle, number one seed losing to a 16 last year. Like the Virginia, where a handful of years ago, number one seed lose to a 16, get back as a number one seed, and eventually get to the Final Four and cut the nets down. Purdue in that similar spot. Yeah, I know about Edey. Yeah, I know about Painter. Yeah, I know about the Big Ten, but you can't take that lightly. And until the last week to 10 days, it was about a $200 difference from Purdue to UConn. And then UConn finally passes them. Well, they both lost. So keep an eye on that one. UConn defending champs. Anyone knows, season ticket holder, 2 daughters, one graduate, one a sophomore. Yes, I live 2.5 hours away. I know that. I give away all those tickets. It's just, I believe in them. I'm a big Hurley fan. I am telling you guys this. Last year, they were a two-headed monster with Jordan Hawkins and Sonogo. Those two got hot. I mean, scorching hot in the tournament. They couldn't be stopped. They're deeper this year. They're longer this year. I think they're all around a better team. Does that mean that they're going to the Final Four and they're cutting the nets? Listen, there's so many bumps in the road. So just pump the brakes a little there. You talked about that Houston team. The best defensive team in the country, hands down. The problem is in the tournament, if you get against a hot team, an Alabama, for instance, or someone, like a Creighton, that's 9 for 18 from 3, and you're looking up at halftime and you're down 22 points. Tough nut to get through. Kentucky, UNC. I haven't even said the word Kansas. Dickerson. Right. I mean, they beat UConn early in the year. They're tough at home, but what can you do on a neutral court? What are you going to do when you're down 6 or 8? The list is endless, and as we get closer, guys, we'll be chopping it up. Like I said, I like to throw some tidbits out there, potential longer shots just to add to the portfolio. $10-20, a little pizza and beer money. That's all.
Yeah, and the last thing I'll say on it, as far as the Purdue angle, I know obviously the success rate in the tournament with Painter hasn't been there. I mean, he gets them there every single time just about, and has had a lot of Sweet 16 losses. The one sliding doors moment in the last 5 or 6 years, where 5 to 10 years in college basketball that not a lot of people talk about, is how close that Purdue team was to beating the Virginia team that won the championship. That game that went to overtime, I think it was the Elite Eight. I mean, if one bounce goes another way, Purdue's going to the Final Four and obviously has a chance to be the one that we're talking about now, and nobody's talking about how bad Matt Painter has been in the tournament. So I think they're a shoe-in to get to the second weekend, probably the Elite Eight, and then they'll have to face their demons again there. But I expect them to go. I expect them to be a very, very tough out, no matter where they are there. So I'm excited, my man.
And then I'll close. Don't forget, if I asked someone without Googling who was in the Final Four last year, I think there'd be a big pause, okay, because I know UConn was there. I know FAU was there. I know San Diego State was there, right? And who was the fourth? Was it the Zags? I know that UConn beat the Zags by about 25, but maybe they snuck into the Final Four, or that was the Elite Eight game. I know
I'm
FAU.
drawing a blank.
I know FAU was there. I know San Diego State was there. I know UConn was there. I think it was the Zags because FAU played San Diego State. And San Diego State beat them at the buzzer, and then the UConn. So the one team that I haven't talked about that can cut the nets down, that can get to the Final Four, or can lose in the first round.
Sorry, it was Miami. It was Miami that was
Miami. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So the UConn must have beat the Zags, I think, in the Elite Eight then.
Yep.
It was Miami, which had a great run themselves. But the one team, again, can cut the nets down, can get to the Final Four, or can lose in the first round and have another coach that sucks in the tournament is Tennessee. Tennessee can play with the best of them. They can beat you 80-79. They can beat you 60-59. They can also lose by 20. So that's that other team.
Yeah, I mean, it's your term of banana in the tailpipe. It's the one time their team looks good enough to get there, and then you just have that roadblock in your face that you know how the story ends. So I'll probably I don't know about as far as wagers are concerned, but my bracket, I'm sure I'll have some confidence in Tennessee, and I'll probably be crashing and burning there. But no, it'll be fun, and obviously the Pac-12 is always not as many people in the rest of the country are paying attention to the Pac-12, and then the next thing you know, they've got 4 teams in the Elite Eight. Maybe not as many teams going to be in the field this time, but you know what I mean, where people obviously sleep on them there. So as far as tomorrow is concerned in college basketball, we've got some good games, as I mentioned. The Big Ten's got a couple of games. Not the most exciting weekend in the Big Ten. As far as massive matchups are concerned, there's a couple teams that are outside of the bubble that are trying to work themselves in. That would be, believe it or not, Iowa and Minnesota are 2 teams that aren't really in that picture, but are on their way. The way they're playing are on their way there. Iowa's got a road game at Illinois, where if obviously Illinois is going to be here to get a bounce back win at home after that debacle in Penn State. But if Iowa can get that one, they're kind of in the picture. Same thing with actually a very big game as far as bubble is concerned. Last I checked, Nebraska was, I want to say 10th, on the bubble, on the inside of the bubble, Nebraska, and they've got Minnesota, who is 17-9, doesn't have a ton of that eye-popping wins. They've got 1 or 2 bad losses, but obviously 17-9. If they can keep winning some games, they're going to get themselves there. So Minnesota and Nebraska on Sunday is a massive one. A lot of these other games, I mean, there's a few teams that are probably at the end of their life cycle here. Indiana and Penn State, not really any chance of getting in there. So Illinois, Iowa, though, Illinois 9.5-point favorites is what I'm seeing for tomorrow, the second one up. And as I said, Iowa is always the team that it's a tough one to crack for me. So I try not to predict what happens with these Iowa games. I was dead wrong about I didn't have a wager prediction necessarily, but was dead wrong about their game against Michigan State. They go in and take care of business against Michigan State. That kind of puts them back on the map a little bit. So if they can do it again and go into Illinois, like I said, they're in business. But I'm not going to be expecting that too much. Outside of Iowa actually won the one matchup last year, and then before that, the last couple of years, Illinois has had Iowa's number and has had a good game plan for these Iowa games. So I'll lead towards Illinois winning. But as far as the 9.5 is concerned, I mean, you got a 173 total. It's either going to be Illinois wins by 20-30, or Iowa's fighting and covering or even a chance to win this game. What are your thoughts on this one?
I've been trying to wrap my head around the Big Ten, and we went against Nebraska earlier this week, and I think they were like 9 for 18 from three. At the half, they were up 20 at Indiana. Indiana cut that game all the way to 3 right around the 7-8 minute mark. Nebraska calls a timeout, goes on a 14-1. Thanks for playing. So having a real hard time in the Big Ten. Some of these teams that are peaking, you talked about your Illinois-Penn State game, for instance. Illinois had that game won, and I had that game on, and shout out to YouTube TV. Guys, if you don't have YouTube TV, and I'm not trying to sell you on YouTube TV here, but I am just going to, listen, if you want the promo code, DM me. I'll give you the promo code. The great thing about that is that you literally go to home, and then you press the game that you want, and next thing it will go, do you want to watch it live or multi-box? And you're scratching it. What do you mean by that? You get 4 games. You get 4 games at once, and you can choose which one you have the volume on. So I had the Illinois game on. With 2 minutes to go, you're up 9, I think it was. And instead of draining the clock, you took a 3, like 8 seconds into the shot clock. And then the downfall happened again, up 7 with 45 seconds to go. So I know I was just circling around because I just see right on my spreadsheet here, Indiana at Penn State. Penn State's only 2.5 right now overnight. And it's the biggest flat spot in the history of Penn State. And I'm someone that had Indiana the day before, and they couldn't win on the road if Isaiah Thomas was suiting up right now. So I'm going to call a coin flip on that game you were talking about, Riley. I can't make heads or tails of it right now.
Yeah, no, and I'm glad you brought the Indiana Penn State thing. I've been as low as just about anybody on Indiana this season, and I've been vocal about just about every team in the Big Ten on their home court is no pushover. Even Michigan, with how bad they've been, maybe these last couple of weeks they've been a pushover. But in Penn State, has put some really nice performances at home. I would be more surprised to see them winning this game than I would be to see them losing as a favorite in this one. So I'm with you 100% of the way on that one. I think a lot of these teams probably still think they could put something together and make a nice run at the end of the season into the Big Ten tournament if they are on the outside looking in. So I'm sure these teams will feel spirited like that. But I'm not holding my breath for either of those two teams. Maryland and Rutgers, I don't want to talk about too much, but same thing with Purdue, Michigan. Purdue, I mean, maybe Michigan that'll be one last-ditch effort for Michigan, and they put up a good performance against Purdue there. That one wouldn't surprise me at all, so I'm not sure what we got for a look-ahead number on that one. I don't see anything official, but that one could be telling where if you got something shy of a 12-point line as opposed to a 20-point line, that might tell a story of what could happen on Sunday at home in Michigan for the Wolverines there.
I'm going to do you a favor as you are going. I'll pull up what Ken has to say here if I can get the mouse to work. Give me 1 second here. I apologize. Here we go. Purdue. Let's go here. Purdue. Ken Palm has Purdue. Come on. $13, 84-71 that game at Riley.
Okay.
13.
That sounds about right. That doesn't seem anything too crazy there. If you see it at a 10-point spread, then I might be interested in Michigan there, something like that. But no, I mean Michigan, how they are giving votes of confidence for Juwan Howard, I don't know. It is rough sledding these days in Michigan land. But hey, they're obviously I think they're blinded by still the championship celebration in football. So I don't think they care what's going on in basketball when they get a football championship. But Ohio State, Michigan State, 17-10, still apparently on the inside of this thing. Looking, the bubble watch. They've given a lot of respect to their schedule from some of the bracketology experts. But they're a couple losses away from being in a danger zone for sure here. Ohio State, a couple months ago, I would have said I had this team as a team that could make the tournament here. They've had some good moments. They've obviously had some bad moments. Had the great upset at home against Purdue, and then immediately fall at Minnesota there. So this one, I could see this one being a really, really good game. These two teams typically play each other really, really well. It's going to be hard for me to see Michigan State losing twice in a row at home because, aside from that Iowa loss, they have been playing better overall and a little more consistently here. They haven't been stringing a bunch of wins together, but, this is a point where you would be surprised to see this Michigan State Tom Izzo team lose twice in a row at home here. So I'll go ahead and say Michigan State gets this one done, but I do think this one will be, close for 35 minutes, and then Michigan State pulls away at the end of this one.
Well, the funny is excuse me, I think, what was it, Sunday, the first game after the coach was fired, they were getting beat pretty good early. They got their sea legs, then went on a run and they beat Purdue. Again, going to the March Madness thought process, Purdue number one. Actually, they were number two then. UConn number one loses to Creighton. Purdue loses to Ohio State. Houston loses, and now they travel to Baylor tomorrow, which you'll get to. But Ken Pom right now has Michigan State 74-65, so they got them winning by 9 on Sunday. Again, Izzo's Army. I love John Rothstein. January, February, Izzo, right? That's it for March. And been waiting. It's been a few years since Izzo's armies have marched into the tournament and done something. So it'd be nice to see them get back there. But a big game to get to 18-10 on Sunday, Riley.
Yeah, and like I said, I think they do it, but I don't want to say I'm playing both sides here, and it wouldn't shock me if Ohio State wins. But these two teams play really, really well. But obviously, if you're trusting the Izzo train in February, you're trusting them to not lose 2 at home here when they're trying to solidify themselves in the tournament there. The other one that I mentioned, Minnesota, Nebraska, is one of the probably the last standing sporting events on Sunday, I imagine. 5:30 my time, 6:30 your time. So I didn't check the schedule, but I assume that's one of the last standing sporting events on Sunday night there. But both these teams, Nebraska is. I would be really, really disappointed to see them fall completely out of the tournament picture here. They are the home team in this one. They were actually road favorites at Minnesota. Minnesota won early December, but this is obviously well before we kind of knew how much scrappier and how much improved Minnesota was from last year. Minnesota's not getting a ton of credit. They didn't have a very tough non-conference schedule. I think last I checked, they weren't even in the next four out projections on some of these bracketology. But if they win this game and can go 4-2 or whatever, however many games they have left down the rest of the way and not have an early exit in the Big Ten tournament, I think they should be in. Ben Johnson, their second or third year head coach, has done a fantastic job from turning a dumpster fire last year without much talent into a really scrappy and surprising team here. And they've got Illinois after this game, after Nebraska. So these next two are going to be really tough. And then they get Penn State, Indiana, and Northwestern. So if they can find a way to go 4-2 during that stretch, they'll be in really solid shape here. I do kind of expect Nebraska to at home flex their muscles a little bit and get this one done because they are a really sound and solid team here, and they're playing really solidly these last three here. You mentioned that Indiana game; they shot the lights out of that one. So if you're playing devil's advocate, you say maybe they cool the hell off here. But outside of that game, their defense had been really, really solid going into that Indiana game. So I would be more willing to suggest that even if they do cool off, that their defense can get them to where they need to go. I mean, their last two home games, granted, it's Penn State and Michigan, but it's 49 points allowed and 59 points allowed. So I'm buying into Nebraska at home defensively in this one. Obviously, before we see an official line on this one, I might change my tone a little bit then. But as of right now, I'll lean towards maybe Minnesota. Optimistically, if they go 4-2, they could be a tournament team. I'll lean on them going maybe 2-4, 3-3 the rest of the way. But I'll go with Nebraska getting the win right now before we see an official line on Sunday.
Well, it's funny because I think Minnesota's like the darling in college hoops against the spread. I think they got 3 losses this year against the spread. I'm looking at this now. Nebraska's sheet. They're 19-8. Ken Palm's got them ranked 38th. But what's most amazingly, Riley, is they got 1 home loss this year against Creighton. Other than that, their losses have been at Minnesota, at Wisconsin, at Iowa, at Rutgers, at Maryland, at Illinois, at Northwestern. At home, they got 1 loss. Currently 22-9 overall, 12-8 in conference play. Ken Palm's got Minnesota winning the game 76-70. Actually, I'm sorry. Let me backtrack that. Nebraska winning the game 76-70 at home.
That's how I was going to be shocked if they were that big of dogs at home. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No, and I would say that's fair. I mean, if it's in that 4.5 or less range, then maybe there's something we don't know about, and maybe there's something to be aware of. But yeah, six or higher, I would feel respected, or Nebraska is respected there. And like you said, I mean, they're being punished a little bit because their non-conference schedule was pretty weak outside of that Creighton game, which they lost. They did beat a Kansas State team at some point, I think in December there. So, no, I if they can obviously get this win and then prove that they're not get a couple of these road wins here these next week and a half or so. I think it's Michigan and Ohio State, I think they have left. If they can get a couple of those, they'll be in good shape. So the games are there for them. For Nebraska, it would be their own doing if they're not able to get in the tournament at this point, at least. Despite how good I think they are, so I'll put Nebraska in, but they've still got the work to do to obviously make sure that they get there. But at the end of the day, they're a team that wouldn't surprise me if they're in the semifinals or even championship of the Big Ten tournament, and making a run at that as far as that is concerned, the Big Ten tournament there.
No, 100%. And again, that's the way the Big Ten is. It's Purdue, and then there's a drop off. And who gets hot at the right time? We talked a lot last year about Ohio State. Is Indiana ever going to get hot? We just talked about Izzo's Armies in March. Now this year, you got the Nebraskas of the world. You got the Minnesotas of the world. Iowa is night and day, home and away. They can't be trusted. So the Big Ten is definitely going to be one of those interesting Sundays on Selection Sunday. On Purdue, are they the number 1 overall tournament seed? They will be in the Midwest. And B, how many other teams get into the dance?
Right, and if Purdue can get some, I'm drawn up. I know Indianapolis is one of the locations. I don't know if that's the first weekend or second weekend, but I mean, if Purdue can get themselves into some, proximity and get a good home court advantage in some of these tournament games, that'll be obviously tenfold. I know the Big Ten tournament's in Minnesota, so they're not going to have that type of advantage there. But obviously, they should be fine in the Big Ten tournament as well. But obviously, if they can get some games in Indiana in the actual March Madness tournament, then that's going to be a massive advantage for them there.
I agree.
All righty, let's roll on over. NBA tonight, my friend, unless you want to talk any of these other college games tomorrow before we move on.
I'm going to take down, hold on one second. Because this is screwing up the feed here. I'm just going to talk about this one for a second. Connecticut travel. Connecticut plays Villanova coming off the loss against Creighton. Connecticut is 24-3. They are 14-2 in conference play. They had won 14 in a row. They had just beaten Marquette on Saturday by 28. It was the perfect storm for Creighton. I'm not taking any. They played a great game. Congratulations. You finally beat a number 1. Right now, Ken Palm's got 72-62. Connecticut winning this game. Then they play Seton Hall. Then they're at Marquette and Providence. Those last 2 games are going to be tough, by the way. At Marquette, they got winning by 1, and then at Providence, winning by 6. It's a whiteout. Game day will be there tomorrow against Villanova. It's a good bounce back spot for UConn. but I also will say that number smells to holy hell. Villanova always plays them tough. Um, I don't. It'll be interesting to see what that number is, Riley, because again, I think it'll be more than 10. I think by tip-off it'll probably be 11 and a half, 12. I would lean Villanova and the points there with game day. It's a long day there. The kids, everyone's going to be there. I said thanks, but no thanks. Maybe 10 years ago I would have went up there, but I said I'll pass. Thank you for asking. But again, I expect them to win. I expect them to beat Seton Hall in their revenge game, their first game in the Big East this year. They lost 15 at Seton Hall. I expect them to win that. But then on Wednesday, March 6th, they traveled to Marquette. Ken Palm's got them winning 74-73. I expect Shaka Smart and the troops. I expect Marquette to win that game. And then we'll close out at Providence, and then we'll get ready for the Big East tournament.
That one on the 6 against Marquette, I've been kind of circling that one for a little bit. Not as hot of a ticket as you would expect. So I've been circling. Not a bad drive for me to get up there. So I've been. It's a Wednesday night, so not as convenient. But I was considering making my way up to that one just for entertainment purposes there. But we'll see. So
how long's the drive there?
To get to, because they play at Fiserv. To get to Fiserv, I mean, I guess I don't know about late traffic. Right now it says an hour and a half. That's on a Friday at rush hour time. But getting into Milwaukee is almost laughable how much easier it is to get into Chicago. So hour and a half. So I'm considering it. I've been considering it.
All right. Well, I since this is live, and I would never go on my word. I'll get you 2 tickets so you can take the bride, and so you have to go. So you have to send me pictures while you're there. How's that? So yep, consider it done. I'll get those 2 tickets for you. So
well, you're kind man. You're a kind man. I was gonna say it is. I mean, we went to Milwaukee a couple months ago, and obviously used to Chicago, and sometimes the construction it can take 2 hours to get into there, and then the next thing you know, you're hitting the highway or you're hitting the expressway on Milwaukee, and then the next thing you know, you're in downtown Milwaukee. It's a joke how much easier it is. Good for them. But thank you, my friend. That would be that's gonna be a heck of a time. So. As far as tomorrow's game, UConn, I see on DraftKings, they got a 12.5 number right now at home against Villanova.
Yeah, that's going to be an inflated number. Again, people are going to think of, coming off a loss, an embarrassing loss, game day there. They're going to buy into the enthusiasm. It's going to be an ugly, drawn-out game. Now, listen, could UConn win by 20? Sure, they could. My point is, I expect UConn to win. The fact of the matter is, I think it's going to be an uglier game, one of these low-scoring games where Danny's going to want to get the boys focused again. Hey, you had the longest winning streak in the nation at 14. Let's just concentrate on winning the game. And, again, you're buying an inflated number. That's why you're seeing 12.5. The true numbers around 9.5, 10.
Right. It could be an interesting one there tomorrow. So I'm curious to see how that one goes. Before we move on, I mean, the ACC tomorrow is an interesting one. You've got probably 4 or 5 teams projected in, but you got a handful of teams that if they got scorching hot these next 2-3 weeks could make a nice run and get themselves on the inside there. Wake Forest, I'm seeing right now at home against Duke, is a 2-point favorite. So they are the home favorite in a spot where they are desperate for a win like that, which could almost punch their ticket if they are able to beat Duke at home. So obviously it's going to be a situation where you got, the average person probably seeing a number 8 team in the country, Duke, and they're going to hammer them. And then you probably got a lot of people who know how badly Wake Forest needs that one. So it's probably going to end up being a clashing situation there anyways. UNC Virginia. Virginia's a short dog at home against, Virginia is a short dog at home against UNC there. So the ACC tomorrow, I mean, just about all of these games, aside from maybe 1 or 2, has some implications. Like I said, a lot of teams that are not going to get in, but if they were able to win 5 out of 6 or something along those lines, a lot of teams that still have a chance in the ACC, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, and I'm just taking a quick look here. I know Houston travels to Baylor tomorrow. That's one big game. Alabama travels to Kentucky. That's a pick 'em. Here's one for you, Riley. Under over 178 and a half, now 179 and a half at DraftKings. They're basically saying first one to 90 wins that game tomorrow.
Which one was that?
Alabama and Kentucky.
Oh, yeah. Okay, I thought you were adding a different one. Yeah. No, that one. I mean, good grief. I mean, some of these SEC games this year are going crazy like that. So I'm curious for it. Alabama. I mean, both those teams are some dark horse teams that have flown under the radar a little bit. Alabama obviously had some rough non-conference situations there, but I mean, the last 2-3 months they've been one of the best teams in the country. So. We'll move away from college basketball so we can wrap up a little bit here. The NBA tonight, my friend, I don't have a ton going on. It's day 2 out of the All-Star break. Still trying to figure out what these teams, who's out of their vacation stupor, whatever you want to call it, All-Star break stupor. Couple teams, I think, that played last night here. The one team, though, you and I, the last couple of years since we've been doing this, typically it's a team in the East. I think that's typically by coincidence, but talk about these teams around this time of year where it's usually into the All-Star break and then out of the All-Star break where have flown under the radar, have underachieved, probably under 500, but still a team that is poised to kind of make a nice little run and improve their standing and get closer to 500. The one team that I was vocal about, I think I told you once, and I was vocal about it solo, and I was right for a bit, and then Trae Young goes out, and then they lose 4 in a row and put themselves right back into it as Atlanta. And these lines that they've been getting have been kind of indicating that this Atlanta team is that team that's going to be, 24-31 right now, going to come out of the ashes. And I'm not sitting here saying they're going to be a deep playoff run team, but a team that is going to be a lot better than whatever this current record says. So 7.5 point favorites here tonight at home against a Toronto team that's only 4.5 games behind them in the standings there. So that one to me with a 245 total. So, maybe the 7.5 isn't the best play to make in that one, but it is at least giving the Atlanta that same type of respect. So I'm going to say Atlanta gets the win. I saw the number was big enough. I mean, not a glaring fade the public Friday situation, but I did see, I think 60% of action, at least in the one spot I was looking on Toronto there. So a number big enough to convey a lot of people there. Maybe the 126.5 to the over for Atlanta is where I'm headed and giving them some points and a big night offensively there. But Atlanta is the one team that I'm picking right now to. I mean, they're in the 10 spot in that play-in seed, but by the end of this thing in a couple months, be if not 500, 1 or 2 games under 500 as opposed to where they are now.
No, I think I want to say, you know who Atlanta is? This is our last year Orlando Magic, right? We were talking about Orlando. Was it Orlando last year? Hold on. We were waiting. No, Miami Heat. We were waiting for the Heat, and it didn't happen till the playoffs. When is the Heat team going to show up? When is the Heat team? Because the numbers Vegas was selling us was exactly what you're talking about, Atlanta. Great eyes there. Again, I had a 6.5 overnight with a 245, now 245.5 with a 7.5 at circa. I'd run to the window, buy the hook. I'd take Atlanta tonight minus the 7. I love where your eyes are there, Rye.
Yeah, I mean, before the All-Star break, and again, it's day 2 after the All-Star break. Hopefully they're ready to go. Toronto could have RJ Barrett's questionable. They're still trying to figure themselves out after the trades they made. So like you said, some of these lines. I mean, the road favorites at Philly, obviously no Embiid. Road favorites at Philly, 7-point home favorites against Houston, and they win by 9. 5-point favorites against the Bulls team that was improved. So these lines are definitely indicating that Atlanta is going to start winning some games. Elsewhere here, you've got a Clippers team that I think lost last night, 9-point favorites on the road. Speaking of the Heat, they are short dogs at New Orleans, a New Orleans team that I was very big on early in the season, and now obviously the market's kind of caught up to them a little bit there. But again, tough to call what's going to happen out of the break here. Miami has kind of had a handle on this matchup the last few years. Obviously, don't see each other more than 2 times, but I'll go ahead and lean towards maybe Miami as far as a little bit of a short dog here. I would have loved to see the Pelicans a little bit more of a 4.5, 5-point favorite if I was really feeling confident in them tonight.
No, I like where your eyes are there. On my spreadsheet right now, there are 4 games in red. You nailed the Atlanta game, Cleveland and Philly. Again, red means is injuries we're waiting for, confirmed in or outs. Miami, New Orleans, and San Antonio and LA. And I think I saw earlier today during one of our shows that the unibrow there, Anthony Davis was questionable, but where your eyes are there, I agree with you. Again, second game back off of the All-Star break, so you really got to kind of muscle through this weekend before they get lathered up and they play down. Was there about 20, 25 games left, Riley?
Something like that. Yeah, 25 or so. Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah. So I agree with you.
Yep. The other one, Milwaukee with Giannis. Curious to see what Milwaukee, how they respond. Obviously, have had a lot of the Doc storylines of calling their players out before the All-Star break, then people calling Doc out for making a ton of excuses, as Doc has done in the past. So I'm curious to see. This is not one that I'm interested in touching. But you've got a Minnesota team that's obviously 39-16, 4.5-point favorites. A Milwaukee team that's 4.5-point dogs. Curious to see how they respond after they've been kind of sitting in their own you-know-what here these last handful of days. Would not surprise me if at least, if anything else, Giannis comes out spirited after a little bit of a break here. But I don't want to touch this one because obviously Milwaukee's had their problems these last few weeks. But I still believe in this Milwaukee team to some degree here to get out of this kind of stink that they've had these last few weeks and start to be, at least behind Boston, the number 2 contender in the East here.
I thought I saw on Twitter there was a stat where Doc or the Bucks, it might have been the Bucks, or it might have been Doc, 0-13 as underdogs. And as you said, here come the Bucks. Minnesota was 5 overnight with the 225. Down to 4.5 with the 225.5. We're going to get cranked up here at ECSI as we get closer inside that 15 to 20 game mark, as you really start to see the playoff race, the bubble teams, who's in, who's out, who's tanking, who's not. So again, I like where you are. I like the thought process. It smells to holy heaven. It really, really does. But again, if you jumped on the T-Wolves side, wouldn't shock me to see the Bucks win by 20 tonight.
And then Giannis putting a 40, 12, and 12 game or something like that. Exactly. You were right, though. It's the Bucks. They've lost 13 in a row. I don't know, how long that spans back because obviously they're not underdogs often. But 13 in a row, the Bucks have lost as underdogs there. And I don't know if that's failed to cover all of those or just lost all 13 of them. But either way, obviously in those situations where they're an underdog. So, of course, now that we're saying it and the sky is falling, then they're going to, like you said, 40, 12, and 12 and a 20-point win in Minnesota tonight.
No, I agree. And again, I always talk about this, especially on social media. I grew up in the day when I worked for my first 2 services in the late 80s, early 90s. There was no internet. There were no cell phones. Our sources were newspapers. I had 5 newspapers a day, and we hoped one of the ones that we got early in the morning had the West Coast games to find out if, the Bruins won out in LA the night before, even before ESPN, the crawlers and everything like that. So nowadays, when it comes to sources, there is so much information out there. God knows, you think you have the latest news where someone else already had it 25 minutes ago.
No, 100%. And as far as the rest of tonight goes, my friend, a handful of bad teams in action tonight. So there's probably going to be a bad team that pulls off an upset tonight, but I don't feel the need to try and figure out who it is. I mean, you got Portland at home against Denver, Charlotte at Golden State, who's another team that's pulled their head of their what's there. San Antonio's 10-point dogs there, and I said Memphis 9-point dogs, Washington 15.5-point dogs. One of these big dogs is going to win, but maybe. But I'm not going to try and sit here and figure out who it is.
No, not at all. I liked where you were initially. Hawks -7. I like where that is. Other than that, in the NBA, you talked about the 245 number, which is now 245 and a half. Again, I don't like to double dip in games, but that game looks like it might go over. We didn't talk about it because I didn't think it was even worth our while. The NBA All-Star game, just get rid of it. Pay the guys whatever you want to do to take a long weekend off. I'm sorry, 400 points scored, whatever it was, your dunk contest, your 3-point contest. Wait, it is what it is on those contests. Steph Curry, his little, 3-point contest as well. That was fun to watch. Again, I didn't watch 1 second. I won't. It's the same as the NFL Pro Bowl, All-Star, whatever you want to call it. Don't watch a second of that. I'll watch a little of the MLB All-Star game and the NHL. Again, their All-Star game has gotten to a point. It's all about the dollar. Give the guys 5 days off. Let them go wherever they want to go and then come back to real sports.
Right. And when you're doing it in the middle of the season, like you said, I've always loved the MLB All-Star game, a little less, impactful. And I'm not arguing that it needs to go back to what it was, but when you had it for the winner gets home field advantage in the World Series, obviously it's actually a pretty massive game there. But I still, obviously that one's enjoyable to watch. But I don't think there's really any way that you could incentivize. I mean, obviously the NFL's talked about it for that's been no secret that has been terrible. The NBA, I mean, I've never really been a fan of the All-Star game, but at least for a long time in my lifetime, at least, the fourth quarter, these guys would step it up a little bit and try to win these games. That's obviously was not the case the other day, and it was pretty atrocious there. So I don't know what you do to incentivize them to try hard in that game, and I don't know what you do to incentivize anyone of real. Maybe they get one guy or so in the dunk contest. It used to be an event that I loved, and there's been some times even in the last handful of years where it's been legitimately good. But with all due respect to Mac McClung, you got a guy in the G League, a perennial G League guy who's a back-to-back champ. Very good dunker, but, I'm not saying we need to get 37-year-old LeBron out here. But until you're getting some legitimate names who are actively trying hard to do these events, it's not worth anyone's while, and it's been a while since I've really put too much time and effort into it, and it's very sad.
No, 100%. And again, it's now just about the almighty dollar. That's all it is. And it's sad where our country is in the NBA with load management. And these guys only literally have to play 62 games or whatever it is. Well, why don't you cut the season down from 80 games to 62? Why don't you move the season start to December 1st? Highlight Christmas Day. That's your day. Have the season end somewhere in August that will take us to football. And then you can have your couple months off and rest and do whatever you got to and come back. I mean, I was the one that told you not too long ago, start the season on Christmas Day and then play through the summer. And then when football kicks off, that's when your playoffs are. And then take October and November off and come back in, mid to late December again. It's too easy, but God forbid you take 18 games or 20 games off the schedule, because that is 20 home games or 10 home games, 10 away games, and the lost revenue. It makes too much sense, Riley.
No, 100%, and I could go on for days, and I don't know the exact balance of it, but I mean, I'm a massive basketball fan, and I'm even as we get along, and I don't think it's because I'm getting older and less interested. It's just these regular season games just aren't good. I watch, it's almost becoming baseball where you pay attention to your local team, and I mean, I used to have the same setup where I'm watching multiple NBA games a night, and I just have no interest in watching more than one or two, maybe one other random game a day or not. I don't know, but. See, shortening the season, I think would the TV deals I think would go through the roof if you shorten the season and put a lot more emphasis on these games. So many more people would be back interested in these games, and obviously if you're getting the guys on the court, I mean, we talked about the in-season tournament, and I said obviously there's a lot of kinks to be worked out, but if you're telling me there's going to be 1-2 games nights a week where these games are a little bit more effort, then I'm a little more interested. now it's kind of at a point where once that ends, you got a January and February where these guys are kind of phoning it in again. So, it makes November and December a little more interesting, but now January and February are oversaturated. So something has to change. I don't think they're blind to it. They've obviously been fairly adaptive with Adam Silver as a commissioner there. So, like you said, are they going to cut it down? I don't know, but at the end of the day, something else has to happen because these regular season games are next to meaningless unless you're a team that's fighting for their playoff life.
No, and I agree. And I looked at this 3 games in the NHL pass. I do know Elio over at Barstools, who's been pretty cold like us have the last couple of days, is on the over 6.5. Minnesota and Edmonton. So isn't the rest of the world. So I looked at some team totals, either Minnesota or Edmonton at plus money passing there. The Jets are at your Blackhawks. With Bedard back there, the Jets are minus 283, almost 3-1 favorites to win tonight in Chicago, and under over a 5.5. So if you try to get cute with the Jets winning by a goal and a half, good luck there, or regulation. And then Buffalo at Columbus. Again, everyone on the over there. Buffalo minus 155 there. Columbus coming off a win at Anaheim. ECSI VIPs, truth be told, last 2 nights that were horrific. Tried to open up the playbook 2 nights ago. We go 1-2. Last night, 0-4. 100% transparency here. I have nothing to hide. I've been here for 9 years. It's a marathon. We're still hitting at around 55.7% in the last 9 years. Is nothing, no shame to our game. There is one game tonight that in college hoops that opened up at 1.5 that looks like the right side. The only way I would play it is the money line, and that's Yale and Cornell tonight. I do lean Cornell on the money line. I think we're going to be dark tonight from the ECSI VIP's perspective. Going to get back to the basics. Truth be told, we're again, we're giving out 1 game a night. We're passing a lot more on a Saturday, a big slate. We might have 3 games, maybe 1 at 12, 1 at 4, and 1 at 9:30. It is what it is. We might be back to that 9 to 11 games during the whole week. You go 6-3, you win 3 units. It's a great week. There's just the market is caught up. This is what I'm going to tell everyone. The market knows what people like ourselves look for. And I'm not saying they're throwing out false information, but they're tainting it to a certain degree to attract the attention of ourselves and a lot of others that are causing a lot more losses than we're normal. So we're going to slow the pace down. We're going to get through the rest of February. We're going to dive into March, get ready for March Madness, the conference championships. Enjoy the tournament and get ready for some MLB.
And as I told you, as far as MLB is concerned, I am geared up and ready for baseball season. But obviously, my White Sox, their roster and certain spots, there's a couple points of optimism. But for the most part, it's looking a little bleak. Not obviously a lot. You and I haven't talked about it. We don't need to spend any more than a couple seconds on it. But looks like the White Sox could be changing locations in Chicago as opposed to uprooting to Nashville, like our owner tried to strong arm us a little bit on a few months ago there. But with the new site renderings look awesome, and it would still south side, like south side downtown, as opposed to a couple miles south of downtown. So it would be fantastic to get that. But in a weird period where was expected to be if not a World Series champ by now, a 2-3 division champs in a row at the very least, and some nice playoff runs, and that obviously hasn't happened. So not expected too much. Tim Anderson, which was to be expected on his way out into Miami, I think yesterday, the day before. So couple, like I said, couple guys that could improve and have a couple 30 home run seasons that have maybe underachieved the last couple of years. But aside from that, their starting rotation is Dylan Cease and a cloud of dust after that. So my optimism level is not exactly too high on the White Sox going into the damn thing this season, my friend.
No, and that was it. I saw the Tim Anderson news. I think it was yesterday to Miami. There was talks all off season that you were going to move Dylan Cease. He was actually there was some talks about the Red Sox, and then we end up with Giolito there. It will be basically who gets moved first, Shane Bieber or Dylan Cease. So maybe I should get the guys at Circa to put that prop up there. As for my Red Sox, again, started the year 1-0 with a amazing 7-2 victory against the Northeastern Huskies. So stop the season. We'll end the year undefeated. I saw the Dodgers put up 14 yesterday, 14-1, and then I think Freddie Freeman's first at bat today, a homer. Again, my Red Sox, there's not a lot to talk about, unfortunately. Even Devers came out this week scolding management like, guys, what are you doing? We need more help here. An under over a 79.5. Which everyone's on the under. But again, to be in playoff contention, you need to be in that 85, 87, 88 range. So again, a couple bumps, a couple breaks here, a walk-off homer, a pass ball win, a couple games that you steal, you're right there. And for your captain, your star that you paid the most money to come out on February 22nd and called the owner, John Henry, out and say, hey, guys, hello, Jordan Montgomery, who's now in Florida, and his wife's doing residency at one of the Boston hospitals, like saying, guys, hello, I'm here. I want to play for you guys. The J.D. Martinez's, which, again, we've already seen that, but, again, is out there. Blake Snell is out there. Spend a little money. At least make it competitive, will you?
100%. And I mean, I don't expect White Sox to do that, but the only thing I left out as far as what, I'm not sitting here closing the season today on February 23rd is because the AL Central isn't, nobody's, putting a banner season in the offseason together in the AL Central. So 85, 86 wins could do the job. I expect someone to break out and have a better season, but you know what I mean, where it's not, it wouldn't be shocking to see a team win 85, 86 out of the AL Central and go to the playoffs. So, no, we could go on and on about this stuff, but I think that is probably solid for my closing thoughts as far as the White Sox is concerned.
Rumor has it the Detroit Tigers are going to win that division. That will be for sometime next week, so just keep your eye on the Tigers there. Weekend, everyone here, thank you so much for watching. Shout out to Mr. Berry himself. Thank you for all that you do. The Wager Wire community, thank you guys. It's been a great week. We're looking forward to some big things coming. Just got my email returned with a nice little shout out from Martwan, the parlay professor for Wager Wire. We're going to start doing some work with him. We're going to debut our power lunches, I think at the start of March. Going to come on for 15, 20 minutes and talk about what the market's doing to keep an eye on a play or two a couple times a week. So Wager Wire, get ready. We're ready for blast off at the start of March. Myself and Riley will be back next week around that 4:30 hour, every day but Tuesday. So look for one of us, both of us, throughout the week other than Tuesday. Wednesday, we're announcing it right now. Wednesday, 5 o'clock Eastern, the return of Brady Cannon. Brady Cannon will be back with myself and East Coast Sports Investors on his weekly PGA. Wherever we are that week, that's where he is. He writes for the PGA, host and guest on Sports Grid. Great friend, great colleague. We did a season with him last year, and we've decided to join forces again. He will be back debuting on Wednesday, 5 p.m. Eastern. He's going to take us right through to Thanksgiving, around 37, 38 shows. We couldn't be more happier. So he'll be back on Wednesday. Travis will be back this Tuesday, we're hoping. If not, we're going to play him on Friday of next week, March 1st as well. And then, of course, Thursdays with Julian Edlow and DraftKings. And then we're going to see the schedule for Tuesday and Thursdays with Andrew McGinnis and Wager Talk. So we got some action-packed. And, of course, I didn't forget, Friday at 2 o'clock, Matt Grissom and Quentin Mills, the three men in the box in college baseball. So, and later in the spring, Dan Alexander will be back for some premier lacrosse. So we're covering all the bases, no pun intended. So everyone, it's Fade the Public Friday. That means don't be the pizza man. Everyone got paid today. They run to the window. They bet the favorites. They bet the overs. And then they come home 4 hours late, broke, cold pizza, pillow, and blanket on the couch because you're not wanted. You're late and you're broke now. So don't do it. Have some fun. Cash a few tickets. Thanks to Riley Magnuson at Riley_Magnuson, the one. Great week from you, Riley, as always. And myself, Jeff Dawson at EC Sports Invest. If you haven't gone to YouTube, run on over there. Subscribe to our YouTube channel at East Coast Sports Investors. It's free. We'd appreciate it. And if you like our work, just tweet it, retweet it, turn the notifications on, and never miss a show. Have a great day, a better week and weekend, and we will see you next week.